everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, as you can see in the title, this is a prom do's and don'ts video. It's also kind of like makeup and bridal. So tips and tricks, and I do a full tutorial on this whole look. Obviously, this may not be a prom look for you, but like a neutral pinky eye complements so many different skin tones. This is a much lighter lash than I normally do. It's something that, like, you can see, it's definitely there, but it's not quite as intense as you'll typically see me go in with. And a nude glossy lip is just so complimentary for anybody. So if this is something you want to see, make sure to keep on watching. And please don't forget to subscribe because I do upload twice a week, and that is the best way to stay up to date on all the fun stuff I'm posting. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So starting off with my Tatcha Silk Canvas, I'm just going to kind of blend all of my pores out. This is something I like to do no matter whether I want something a little bit glossier or dewier or really matte and satin. No matter what I'm doing, I want my pores to look airbrushed away and totally smooth. Then taking a little bit of the Lumenizer primer from Dr. Brandt. Just gonna add a little bit of this, not on the nose, but anywhere where I typically don't get shiny. I'm gonna add a little bit of this because it's going to allow the foundation to stick a little bit and last all through the night. And it is also going to add just a little bit of a dewy glow, because the biggest key to doing special event makeup is you want the skin to look perfect. So I'll go in with like a softer eye and you'll see all of that in a little bit, but really the focus is gonna be on fresh, dewy looking skin. Then going into my Cover FX Custom Enhancer Drops in Blossom, I'm gonna take a very little bit. These are kind of a rose tint because I'm gonna be going with foundation as well, but the places I'm going to highlight, I really wanna make sure get a whole lot of extra shine. And you'll see that everything kind of has a rosy off-white tint. That shine is going to come through my foundation. So the foundation I'm going to use is the Hourglass Vanish Stick. This is one of my go-to for any type of special event makeup. I'm in the shade Shell. And I take this over everything we just did. Then on a foundation brush, I'm going to take a little bit of the Dior Forever Air Skin, and I'm going to use that to blend the two together. The Hourglass has a really good staying a very good staying power, but I love the little bit of a sheen that you get from the Dior. Now, because we want a little bit of a glowier skin, I'm going to go in with a little bit of my Shape Tape like I always do, just because this is the best for canceling out any of my under eye circles. And I'm going to blend that in with the Morphe M536 brush. And when I'm done with that, I'm going to add the NARS Radiant Creamy, which is a little bit more of like a satin dewy finish. And I'm going to take that just to highlight everywhere else. Then I'm going to take a little bit of Fix Plus on a beauty blender, and I'm just going to press that into the under eye just to kind of add a little bit of extra moisture. And this is just going to help lock everything in place and help it stay there all night long. Then I'm going to go into my Natasha Denona Diamond Blush Palette. This is in the Darya. I'm going to take a little bit of the the cream blush and the cream highlighter and take that just on the apples and high points of the face. I'm not going in with a lot because I just kind of want to set down the color. I'll be going in a little heavier with the powder later. Then I'm just going to set down the under eyes with the Laura Mercier translucent powder. You want to make sure you use a powder that you trust that's not going to give you any flashback. And this is one that for me is tried and true. I don't get flashback. I could take pictures all night long and there's not going to be any sort of interruption because of the talc in the powder. Because nobody wants a flashback Mary event situation. Then for a little extra coverage, I'm going to go into my MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in medium golden, and I'm just going to set down the rest of the face. So for contour, I'm going to go into my Shade and Light palette from Kat Von D. I'm going to take the middle shade. When I'm doing When I'm doing an evening event, I definitely go in with a slightly darker shade, just because I know that it's going to be photographed, it's something evening, and you're going to want a little bit of extra depth to the face, because you're going to be under darker lighting. Everything will kind of get lost, and you don't want to get washed out. So this is going to look a little harsh at first, but then once we blend it in and we get everything going, at night, this is going to photograph so well. To brighten, I'm going to go into the Essence Brighten Up Banana Powder, and I'm going to take that anywhere I put the concealer, just to brighten. For bronzer, I'm going to take the Marc Jacobs Tam-Tastic Bronzer, and I'm going to take that on an Athletica P12. I got this in my BoxyCharm this month. I'll link that video down below, and this has very quickly become my favorite bronzer brush. It just sweeps on everything so effortlessly. It reminds me of the Smashbox bronzer brush. It's nice and fluffy, and it diffuses product so nicely. So now I'm going to do the first set of my face, and the trick to having your makeup last through an entire event is to set it like 9 times. So I'm going to start with the Make It Last from Milani. I find that even though this has alcohol in it, which typically dries your skin out, for me, I don't find it does that. And this is just notorious for helping things lock in and stay all day. I'll then go in with an illuminating setting spray later, and I'll go in with something to like de-powder later. But for now, this is just going to start locking everything in. So I'm just going to quickly do my brows and set my eyes. Nope, I'm going to start that over. So I'm just going to quickly set down my eyes and throw on a quick brow, and I'll be right back. So now to finish up the skin, I'm going to go back into my Natasha Denona palette. And I'm going to take the blush shade down here, and I'm just going to add a little bit of that to the apples of the cheeks. Then taking a little more of that mineral skin finish, I'm going to just kind of blend the bronzer and blush together. And this is just going to give it a little bit more of a seamless application. Then to finish this off, I'm going to go into first the highlight shade of this palette. And I'm going to add just a very little dusting to the high points of the face. Now, this is something that we want to really accent the face. We don't really want this to be the blinding piece yet. If you're into a blinding highlight, I'll show you where I'm going to add that later. But for now, we just want to go for a very natural, soft, dewy, like this is just where the light would catch. And you'll see the skin looks kind of dewy. It's catching the light where the highlighter is, but it's not really like blinding yet. We really want this to be able to pop. So then I'm gonna go into down here. This is the Diamond Powder, which is a little more shimmery. And I'm gonna take that just on the cheeks. And I'm actually gonna blend that over the blush a little bit. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna give you that extra dimension that you want. So when you're looking straight on, you're not gonna get a lot of action, but the second you turn to the side and it catches the light, that flash is really gonna go in. Then just gonna blend that in a little bit with that blush brush. Now, the biggest tip for like makeup for prom or events is you want very fresh, dewy skin. Obviously, we are there. So I'm going to set that down with the Cover FX Illuminating Setting Spray. This does have some glitter particles in it, so you wanna go with a very light hand from far away, otherwise you'll get little chunks of glitter. So I'm just going to mist that all over the face. And you'll notice that just kind of gives the whole skin a little bit more of a sheen. Everything's gonna look a little bit more natural and a little bit more organic. You're not gonna have that super matte look. Now, when I'm going for an all-day look, I'm always going for all matte. But when I have like an event or something, I wanna look a little bit more fresh-faced, a little more dewy, but I want it to be from like shimmer particles, not from oil. So I still wanna do matte, 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 then just set it down with something a little more shimmery. So for prom makeup, you want something that's similar to like a natural look. So you just kind of want to define your crease and give yourself a little shimmer, in my opinion. You want to go for something that's a little bit more natural. So I'm going to be taking the Douce from Juvia's Place palette. I'm going to be dipping into these neutral shades and a little bit of pink just to give you that very nice flush to the eyes without it getting overboard. So I'm gonna start with the shade Berry Mousse down here, and I'm just going to define the crease. Then I'm gonna dip into Creme, the pink, and just add a little bit of that into the crease for some warmth. Now the reason I say to go in with a semi-natural colored eye and a soft look for these events is that the biggest regret I hear from people after events is that they don't feel like they looked like themselves. Like nothing is worse than going to prom, being a bride, going to these events, getting a lot of pictures taken, and then looking back and not looking like yourself. So if you go for a bold, dramatic, smoky eye in your everyday life, and that's just what you like to do, go for it. Do it at prom. But if you do like minimal all the time, you want to do something that's going to accentuate what you normally do. Go in for something that's going to give you some definition to the eye, but it's not going to look like you're trying to be somebody else. If you rock thick wing liner, huge lashes, and a bold lip all the time, then go for it. But the worst thing is for you to like be very low-key normal, a little mascara, a little lip gloss, and then go so full glam at prom or for your wedding that you're no longer recognizable. Then I'm going to dip into Crepes down here, and I'm just going to add a little bit of this definition to the outer portion of the eye. Now this is a very warm shade, but we will be going in with a deeper brown later. So we really just want to focus that color from the center of the lid down to the outer corner, just there, and then blend it in with a fluffier brush. And once you feel like you're blended in and there's no product left on the brush, then you want to drag it to the inner corner, but not before, because you just want to add a little bit of that definition. You don't want to go overboard with it. Then I'm going to take a little bit of Chocolat, the deep brown, and I'm going to very lightly pack that just on this outer portion of the eye. And I'm going to take that towards the inner third, but I'm going to stop right around the pupil. And this is just going to give us a little more of that definition once we add our shimmer shade. To make it a little more seamless, I'm going to take a little more of Creme, the pink shade, and just blend out those edges. For the lid, I'm going to take Puffs, this pink duochrome shade, and I'm going to start dry, just packing that all over the inner portion of the lid, taking it just over that brown shade, and then just blend that out. Then going back into that brown on the brush without adding any additional product, I'm just gonna pat that over the outer portion of the eye just to give it a little bit more of a soft transition from one shade to the other. And now to amp it up a little bit, I'm gonna go back into that little brush, but this time I'm going to wet the brush with a little bit of Fix Plus just to intensify that shade, and I'm gonna take it on the very inner portion of the lid and I'm gonna gently build it up. Now, if you don't wanna build it up quite this much, you don't have to. You can go for something a little more natural, but for me personally, I like to have a little bit more of that shimmer show through. So then dipping a little bit more into that brown, I'm just going to diffuse a little bit more of that into the outer portion of the eye and into the crease, just to add a little bit of that definition back that we might have lost. Then on a pencil brush, dipping into the warm toned terracotta shade Crepes, I'm just going to buff that around the lower lash line. Then taking a very tiny amount of the deep brown, I'm just going to add a tiny bit just to the outer corner of the eye. And then on that fluffier brush, I'm gonna take a little bit of that Berry Mousse shade down here, and I'm just going to blend that out. Then I'm just gonna throw a nude liner in the waterline. This is Honeydew from ColourPop. These are really pigmented and actually wear really well throughout the day. So I'm just gonna add a very light layer of this to the waterline. And this is just gonna help with that fake awake brightness into the under eye. So I'm just gonna throw on some mascara and liner today. I'm gonna do it off camera just because it takes forever. The lashes I'm wearing today are the Londons from Lily Lashes and Sephora. And if you care, the mascara is going to be Roller Lash. Okay, so I didn't put lashes on yet. I just did mascara. If you want to stop here, you totally can. It does look very pretty and very effortless without lashes. But for me, I like it to be a little bit bold. So I am going to put on the lashes, but I just wanted to show you how it looked without them first. Okay, so the lashes are on. You know I go for some big lashes, but when I'm doing an event, I want one that flare out a little bit more. They are asymmetrical. I will link down below like my lashes 101 video. But I like one for events where like you get that depth on the outer V and it just kind of cheats the eye up, but it's a little bit sparser on the inner corner just so that I get that really dramatic flare on the eye. So now that that's been there a little bit and you'll see a little bit of a glow to the skin from the original setting spray, now I'm gonna go in with the Morphe Prep and Set, and this is just going to kind of tone everything down a little bit. Okay, so lastly we have lips, and the biggest thing I would say with lips is right now, blues are in, greens are in. There's a lot of bold colors that are in, but I would always go for something a little more classic and timeless. So for me, either a light gloss or a soft nude or a red are your staple ways to go. Nothing is gonna be worse than wearing a super trendy look now and looking back in like 10 years and being like, why the hell was I wearing green lipstick? Like that stuff comes and goes. A classic red, a classic nude, or a soft gloss are always in. So I'm gonna take the NYX Brick Lip Liner and line my lips a little bit. So the base for the lip today is going to be Mannequin from Jeffree Star, and I'm just going to throw that on. It's gonna look light, but it'll all come together at the end, I promise. Okay, so the lip has dried down, and it is a little matchy-matchy to have such a pink nude lip with such a pink eye. So I'm gonna go over it with a little bit of the Fenty Universal Gloss Bomb, just in the center of the lips to make it a little bit poutier. So really quickly, I'm just gonna wrap up some of the tips. First, when you're going to events, focus on the skin. Because the eyes, you know, it's gonna be dark, maybe they won't see the blend, your eyes are open, whatever the deal may be, but natural, flawless, glowy skin is forever. Speaking of forever, the next thing is work with timeless makeup. Now, a bold lash and a green lip and a super galaxy highlight might be in right now, but you don't want to look back on your prom in 10 years and be like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, nothing is worse than doing something that, like, the amount of people who will pull up a picture from 10 years ago and be like, what was going on? You don't want to be that. You want to be timeless. So while pink may not be your choice of color for the eyes, stick to something a little more neutral. Go bronzy if you're more comfortable with that. Go gold, go copper, however you want to play natural in. But for me, I like a soft, cool, and pink eye because for me, I find that it really opens the eyes and it cheats my eyes a little bit because they're a little downturned. But when I have a really bright inner portion of the lid and a big lash, it really helps to make the eyes look lifted and make everything just kind of look up, which for me is 1000% desirable. The last big thing I can tell you is stick to something you know will wear. I picked a lip combo that for me is tried and true. I love the Jeffree Star lips. I think they last so well and they smell fantastic. And they really don't move or budge throughout the night. And topping that with a light gloss, I get that same nude power of Mannequin, which I love, but with a little bit of an extra pizzazz that's gonna really catch the light and make the lips look nice and juicy and glowy. And that's the finished look. So this is like my go-to event prom look. Now, obviously, if you don't want something quite so bright on the eyes or so pink, you don't have to. For me, I like a soft pink because I find it complements so many skin tones and so many different dress shades depending on what you're wearing. Definitely also don't have to go quite so big on the lash, but the typical pairing for me is going to be a semi-neutral lid with a nude glossy lip. Now, the reason I did the nude glossy lip and I paired I paired the Fenty with the Jeffree Star. This is one of the most budge-proof formulas I have found, and it is definitely my favorite lipstick formula. And putting a little bit of gloss over it makes it so easy to apply. Plus, this gloss has a little bit of a tint to it. So throughout the night, if you find you need to reapply, you find you need to like ditch the lipstick and go right for the gloss, you totally can, and that's 1000% okay. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you next time. Bye.